Fischer, the floor is yours for questions.
Thank you, Chairman Lujan. To begin with, I'd like to ask unanimous consent that a statement from Senator Thune and a letter from ACA International and the Credit Union National Association be made part of the hearing record.
Without objection.
Thank you. I agree with the chairman that this committee's focus on enforcement today is key. First and foremost, though, I think we need to ensure that our laws and rules that are on the books are being enforced to the fullest extent. Since 2020, the FCC has issued $700 million in forfeiture orders for TCPA violations. However, hardly any of these have been collected, mostly due to the Justice Department's failure to pursue these cases in court. In its obligations under the Trace Act, the DOJ also seems to have missed the opportunity to submit a report with meaningful recommendations. Ms. Brown, do you believe that the Justice Department is doing enough to ensure that bad actors carrying out illegal telemarketing and robocall schemes pay the penalties that the FCC assesses?
Thank you for the question. And in my written testimony, we explain, no, I don't believe the Department of Justice is doing enough, and you can sense that frustration from the FCC chairwoman. They certainly at the department have a lot of tools that they can use both to enforce FCC orders, but on their own to bring righteous mail fraud, wire fraud cases and enforce the laws that you all have passed. So yes, we believe the United States Department of Justice should do more, and as a former DOJ official, I think it is a missed opportunity for them.
So what can we as Congress do to make sure that they do enforce those rules? As you said, they have the tools. So how do we get them to use them?
Well, I think that one challenge is it's hard for Congress to direct the Department of Justice to take specific action due to separation of powers, but you have a lot of power to nudge, cajole, and shape expectations. And in my written testimony, we offer a few examples. In the Trace Act, for example, you impose some pretty robust reporting obligations on the Federal Communications Commission. We think similarly you could impose those kinds of updates, mandates on DOJ to let you all know what they're doing. We also suggest that DOJ should prioritize funds for investigations and enforcement, and you all can direct some of that. And then requiring DOJ, for example, to establish a robocall enforcement and education office. Right now at the department, I think much of their robocall effort is housed under an elder justice initiative, and I think that's really important, obviously, but they can do more, and I think Congress can really look into that and impress upon them that this is a priority.
You know, to me, the focus on enforcement really is two-pronged. We want to make sure that the government's going after the bad actors, and we want to avoid opening up legitimate actors to frivolous lawsuits. Abusive litigation against businesses acting in good faith does nothing to stop criminals. Ms. Brown, would you provide some examples of TCPA filings that you view as litigation abuse?
Certainly, thank you. And unfortunately, there are a lot, and I would commend to anyone's attention the work that the Chamber's Institute for Legal Reform has done. They've had several reports that give examples, but one example that stuck out to me recently, the city of Albuquerque was sued after sending text messages to local residents during the COVID-19 pandemic to notify them of the opportunity to participate in socially distanced town halls. And ultimately, Senator, I believe the city was able to get out of that lawsuit, but not after burdensome litigation. And that's just one example of many that seems to go after beneficial communications, or at least not the bad actors that I think we're here mostly to talk about.
You know, we have many members on this committee who represent very rural states. There's a lot of vastness in our states. And we want to make sure that rural Americans receive services, governmental services, but also services from private industry. And many of rural America is still connected with copper lines, and they are vulnerable when we look at these fraudulent schemes that are out there. Mr. Burke, what are the challenges that remain for these copper-based voice service networks in terms of stopping illegal robocalls and their telemarketing schemes? And does this lack of fiber that we see in rural areas, does that have an outsized effort on most of our rural constituents that we have?
Thank you. I think there are challenges. I know the industry is very committed to moving to IP, and that work is ongoing. Yes, when stir-shaken information can't be passed to the legacy networks, but what I would say is that the protections in place are helping all consumers. When we trace back calls, those calls are hitting people in New York, they're hitting people in rural America as well. And so when we get them off the network, that's helping everyone. Same with stir-shaken. It's helping infuse accountability that benefits everyone, whether they're getting their calls with stir-shaken or not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.